Charles, please take over.
And first of all, I guess we will present the Commuter Rail Committee action item CRC 2022-04. And I believe John Tipton is going to present that to us. Right, John?
Correct. Thank you all. My name is John Tipton, and I work in the Planning and Project Development Department for Chad Edwards at Trinity Metro. Please turn to page 5 of your packet. I will be discussing item number CRC 2022-04, which is continued engineering support on the TexRail extension into the new South Side station. To give you a little background, sorry about that. To give you a little background, AECOM was awarded the contract in June 2020 for preliminary engineering and environmental assessment for the extension into the medical district. This phase of the project is winding down, and we will be hosting a virtual public meeting tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock to solicit input on the preliminary engineering and environmental assessment documents that have been posted on the website. The TexRail alignment in the extension falls primarily in rights-of-way owned by the Union Pacific Railroad and Fort Worth Western Railroad. We need to continue coordination efforts with these railroads and advance engineering beyond the 30% level of completion to develop details that will eventually be incorporated into binding agreements with the railroads. Trinity Metro feels that we would like to engage the services of AECOM as they have the knowledge of the corridor and have good working established relationships with the railroads themselves. The procurement department followed its procurement policy for this contract mod, and it complies with all federal, state, and local requirements. Discussing the DBE requirements, please note that there's a typo on page 5 at the bottom of page 5. Please note that the 15% identified in the board action is a typo, and the 25% is the contract goal for DBE utilization. AECOM has committed to meeting the 25% DBE goal established for the contract. Recommendation. We request the Commuter Rail Committee recommend that Trinity Metro Board of Directors authorize the President CEO to execute a change order to AECOM's contract for an amount not to exceed $455,000 that includes a 10% contingency for unforeseen expenses. The revised contract value of AECOM's contract would then be $2.93 million. That concludes my presentation, and I'll open it up.
Members?
Thank you. What's the timing of the project? Currently, Chair Davis, we're looking to go out for solicitations of final design and engineering in the first quarter of calendar year next year, and then it would be probably about a 15-month design time, and then 18 months of construction. So we're looking at probably 2026. I can provide that information to the board. Okay. All right. Will do. Thank you all.
No pressure. No pressure.
I guess the committee probably has noticed by now that the staff has streamlined our agenda a little bit, and I'm going to pay them a compliment for doing that. We are not doing a double question on who's here. It's just one. We'll just have a roll call for approval, and the chair would entertain a motion.
Move to for roll call. Yeah.
Second, Tito Rodriguez. All in favor say, I'm going to call your name on the roll, and if, please state yes or no when your name is called. Charlotte Williams. Alan Hooks. Benjamin Robertson. Tito Rodriguez.
Yes.
Paul Schlechter. Charles Edmonds votes yes, so it's unanimously in favor. Something happened at the after conference, and I thought it'd be appropriate to bring it up during the committee. Trinity Metro received a gold award, which is a very prominent thing in AFTA. And I asked AJ, if you wouldn't mind, would you describe a little bit for us the award that you and the staff received? There you go.
Give me 1 second. All right. My name is John Eric Argent. I'm Vice President and COO for RAIL. Thank you, AFTA, for honoring Trinity Metro and TexRail today with this prestigious award. We are humbled to be chosen for the 2021 RAIL COVID-19 Gold Award. At the beginning of the pandemic, we implemented enhanced cleaning and safety measures. We socially distanced, we reduced our seating capacity, and of course, mask wearing quickly became the new normal. We created a safe environment for our people and our passengers and promoted that through a strong marketing campaign to encourage everyone to get on board. Communicating with our employees and our customers was essential to keep everyone informed about the latest developments. You know, we often had to pivot, and adaptability was key to successfully executing our plans. I am so proud of our team and everything they achieved to keep us moving forward during this pandemic. Thank you. Thank you, Veronica. As you can see, we did win the 2021 for Commuter Rail COVID Gold Award at APTA, which is the American Public Transportation Association award ceremony this past week. So proud of the entire team, and Trinity Metro couldn't have done it without being such a strong team.
Before I finish my report, on the TexRail performance, is up 104% over September 2020. In 1 year, we've gone up 104%. And TRE has gone up 58%. So we must be doing something right. I just want the staff to know we appreciate it. That concludes my report.
Yeah, sure. Well, extremely proud of that award. One thing done to relay that to our staff. We could not have won that without everybody across the board at the Metro and the various groups.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually awards, we've notified a lot of people just walking up, shaking their hands. For instance, our contractors over at Herzog gone up and talked to the employees, talked to the conductors, the engineers, the cleaning staff, or the staff, our envoys are aware of it. So we've communicated that to them. Okay. That was the very first thing. Understand, we found out about this probably about 4 months ago. Okay. So we had plenty of time to talk to them and just thank them for what they did.
We couldn't do it without them, so I just want to make
100%.
sure that they got 100%. That. Thank you so much.
Chris, we've got one action item from the POM committee. If you would just call the roll to see who's on the POM committee, and then you can ask the presenter, Deidre, to plan to come up and present.
Who's here? Teresa? Here. Michael Crane? Here. Charles Edmonds?
Call your name. Call my name. Charles Edmonds, yes.
Alan Hooks? Here. Benjamin Robertson? Tito Rodriguez? Luce? How do you say it? Okay. And Chris Nettles here. So we'll go ahead and have Deidre present to us at this moment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Board of Directors. I'm Deidre Whitmore, Vice President of Customer Experience. Please turn your attention to page 8. I will be presenting action item POM 200202209, Transportation Partnership between Trinity Metro and JPS Health Network. Building relationships are really important in the world that we're in right now. Transit is a big deal, and it creates access to health care, jobs, and education. On July 1st, a project was developed by JPS Health Network to address the transportation barriers for their targeted patient population, especially those with COVID-19 and other underlying chronic medical conditions. Because of this project, JPS Health Network applied for and received a 2-year grant from the Center of Disease Control, CDC, to help relieve long-standing systemic health and social inequities that impact people from many underserved, low-income, and racial and ethnic minority groups that have underlying chronic medical conditions. Included in their grant is a transportation component with a budget of $100,000. Trinity Metro will make available transit tickets to JPS for their patients to have access to health care in JPS geographical catchment area in Tarrant County using transit. Also a part of this partnership, Trinity Metro will assist in mapping travel patterns within the JPS catchment. This program would not only give patients access they need to get to health care, but it will also help us identify routes that could develop to assure patients get to appointments, testing, and vaccinations. There is no cost to Trinity Metro associated with this program, as the purchase of tickets will be made by JPS through their EDC grant. Therefore, we request that the Planning, Operations, and Marketing Committee recommend that Trinity Metro's Board of Directors authorize President CEO to enter into a memorandum of understanding with JPS Health Network for the purchase of discounted tickets for JPS Health Network Transportation Partnership to provide better health outcomes to COVID-19. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No? Well, then we'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
We have approval and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman. Moving to the Finance and Audit Committee, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. We have one information item, and Paul, are you going to speak to the information item? The liability insurance program? No. CFO, so property will handle that.
Did you get them over there?
Good afternoon. I'm here to talk about the rail liability insurance program that we have. I have great news in the big scheme of things. We, regarding our liability that we cover for TexRail as well as the TRE, I would say it's potential in that not all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. We still have to negotiate some of the financial terms, so it's not a done deal at this point in time. But I thought, since it's not going to meet in December, and word of this will be out because DART is having a presentation, I think, tomorrow about this information. We used all of DART's information in preparing the information to you. Those are not the final numbers, but at the end of the day, we're going to be about $1 million less than what we incurred the prior year. So it could be higher. I think the actual presentation shows $1.6 million, but we'll wait and see how everything lines out. I think everybody knows that liability insurance is expensive for us. And, I guess about 15 months ago, I had a conversation with the CFO at DART and said, we need to work more in some of these areas, even, truck tires and et cetera, bus tires, et cetera. And I said one of the areas would be insurance. Well, about 4 or 5 months after that, they began conversations with us, Greg Dickey on my staff and with AJ, to have a consolidated program. How can it be done? Would it fit our requirements? And so we were very successful in those conversations. And what happened was they went out with their broker at Watson Wyatt Pillis, I think it is, and obtained a quote. That quote we got back at the end of October. And since then, what we've been doing is working with them on trying to come back and put together a program that would work for both of us. Essentially, what the program does, it takes all the insurance and puts it into one pool, into one policy. That cost of that policy is then spread across the agencies. TRE, DART, Trinity Metro, TexRail, Grapevine Vintage Railroad. Okay? So we have one policy for all of those. Now, you might ask, why $323 million? Well, that's what's required by the feds to get underneath or into their safe harbor window. I call it a safe harbor window, but if you have $323 million, you don't incur any more expense than that if you have a particular incident. So what happens, normal course of things, we wouldn't necessarily take that amount of insurance out. But we need that amount of insurance because of the contract provisions in our MeteorCom and our Spectrum contracts. They specify $323 million, which is that maximum again. So essentially what they're saying is we don't want to have any exposure if something does happen, and we want to have enough insurance there to protect us. So anyway, that's where it is at this point in time. Once again, look at the numbers, give you a sense of magnitude that we're dealing with and what we're negotiating around. I would say that what we've done on our side also, our program renews at the end of December, and we've gone ahead and continued on our path to get standalone insurance. So if these agreements or these processes doesn't come to fruition, then we will have our insurance, our regular insurance to go by. So we just thought we'd just bring that to you. As I said, it's a real win for the organization if we get this done. So I look forward to seeing how it can be put together.
Any questions for Fred? Yeah, go ahead.
Fred, does it make any sense to keep going down to Capital Metro, to Houston, to see what might be out there for all of us in the state of Texas that have some of these operations?
Absolutely. I don't see any reason why not. I think it's just a matter of who wants to swing the big stick.
I don't want to swing any stick. I just want to be cheaper for everybody. So,
no, I know. But who wants to lead the effort, that sort of thing, yeah.
Well, pick up, if you don't mind, just pick the phone up, call Cat Metro, and see if there's something there, and also with Houston. I mean, we might even be able to whittle that down, a couple of $1 million. But that's great news, good work. Really happy to see this collaboration. I was at the APTA convention, spent a lot of time with DCTA and with DART folks, and they're all probably the best relationship we've ever had with all those groups. So good work in getting them involved in this, but let's just make a phone call or two and see if there's something out there for Cat Metro, Vita, and San Antonio, who has no rail, I don't think, but I know Houston does.
Yeah. No, it could happen.
Yeah, Ben, go ahead.
Just echoing everything he said, but also, is this a 1 year with an option to renew multiple years? How long do we
All these
partner?
all these contracts are actually, the insurance contracts themselves are written for 1 year.
Okay.
The MOU that we're going to be putting together will probably be a multiple year, most likely 6. We'll bring it back and show you. It's part of the whole budget. It's not anything new. It's just that the amount of the cost will be high. Yeah.
Like you say, it's a win-win for everybody. Any other questions for Fred?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yes, what I'd like to add is the thoughts about expanding this even further. The American Public Transit Association's Commuter Rail CEO Committee is actually pursuing the same effort on a national basis. So I think actually Fred and team are ahead of APTA, and so I think this is an excellent first step. I mean, if they're successful, and I think they will be, it's between $1 million and $1.25 million, somewhere in that range, that will save in premiums, which is really impressive. But I think that that APTA is really looking at trying to to do this on a national level, because everyone's having challenges with, insurance, liability, particularly on rail. And, you know, it's gotten, the coverage required under the federal law and other law has gotten so high. I mean, you have to go offshore for the upper limits. I mean, there are no U.S. companies that will write the upper limits, so all these policies are done in layers, and you'll start with a U.S. firm that starts in the base, but you're at Lloyd's of London and all these others for the upper reaches. So APTA's also working on that. So this is a great approach, and
Yeah, you know,
Fred and the team have done a great job starting it.
for our area, you know, it's pretty much commodity pricing.
Yeah.
You know, they don't go on loss history because there isn't any in our area, that sort of thing. Where it gets more difficult is when you get to the coast, because they do have a loss history. And that does come in play with some of these pricing issues.
Yeah.
You know, we also have the advantage that we're fully PTC compliant at this point in time, positive train control compliant. That helps really cut down the amount of accidents, the number of accidents, and severity of accidents, et cetera, et cetera. So everything's pointing in a positive way in this effort. So be interested to see what happens.
If I could,
Chairman,
yeah.
Make one quick comment. I'm noticing in your package today, Michael Crane did, that there's a footnote section on our financials, and there were 26 notes that Fred offered us an explanation of, kind of give us a story behind the statement. And that has been one of the most helpful things, that the changes that's been made in the board reports, because that saved us 26 questions that we probably would have wondered about if we hadn't asked. And I just wanted to pay Fred and his staff a compliment for doing that. Thank you, Fred.
Well, thank you, Charles, and I will pass that along to the staff.
Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
You mentioned PTC. In the collaboration with DART, you know, Paul may have a comment about how DART was able to get their PTC through us and saved about $50 million. Are you familiar with that story? I know Bob was intimately familiar with it.
Mr. Chairman, we lived that. We're not just familiar with it. We lived it. For the board members who are new to rail, Positive Train Control is a satellite-based system that basically prevents trains from crashing into each other. I mean, that's kind of the bottom line. It's a really, really good concept. And because when Fred mentioned that our insurance is not based on experience, because you don't have the first accident in rail. I mean, period. You just don't have the first accident. So Positive Train Control was mandated by Congress. Unfortunately, there was only one company that had the technology, and so it made it very, very challenging for us. So we worked cooperatively with DART, and you know, they gave it a good effort. Came in at $80 million. Unfortunately, that was way beyond our budget. So they tried a second time, and it was up over $100 million. So it was going in the wrong direction. So we redivided the responsibilities. DART took over all the radio communications, and our folks took a crack at the satellite-based system, and we got it for just a little over $40 million. I mean, we really studied it. We worked hard, and so we came in at $60 to $70 million less than what we were looking at. So it was a significant cost savings. But now that it's been implemented, it's implemented nationwide. You would think that long-term insurance rates would come down, because it's almost virtually impossible now to have trains controlled by PTC collide with each other, because it's all controlled by satellite. It stops the train automatically. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful system. It was tough to get it done, but every commuter rail system in the country was able to achieve it. But we were able to get probably some of the best pricing of any of the PTC systems. So
Thanks for the comment.
Yeah. Thanks to AJ and also Reed, and I saw Reed earlier.
And Bob Balcher played an important role in all of that, in designing that.
Okay, any other questions then? All right, thank you, Fred.
Welcome.
All right, next item is FAC 2022-01. Jennifer?
Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Grissom, the Director of Fort Worth Bike Sharing. If you'll turn to page 13 for FAC 2022-01. As you know, earlier this year, Fort Worth Bike Sharing became a department of Trinity Metro, and part of that transition is to renew and renegotiate our contract with B-Cycle. B-Cycle is our vendor for both the software and the physical equipment that we use for the system. So at this time, we are asking for the board to approve the contract in order to meet two objectives: to continue the support of the system with the software, the maintenance of the materials, the replacement parts, as well as the reporting that we have for the kiosks and the bikes. But we also want to ask that you will allow us to come into this contract with the intention of doing some expansion. So we are asking for a 5-year contract. Those expansions would be as funding becomes available. The continued support is already budgeted for. So we have two things going on here. So our official recommendation is that staff requests the Finance and Audit Committee recommends that the Board of Directors authorize the President, CEO, enter into a contract with B-Cycle for a total amount of $3.255 million over a 5-year contract term. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Jeff? Yeah, go ahead.
This is really a big deal, and I think bicycling is going to become more and more important, and we've already had the B-Cycle program around for several years. I think it's been successful. Are we planning these stations, these new stations, to connect to our fixed route, or are we just doing it as best we can? Because I think we're trying to make it into a unit, if possible.
Trying to mesh it. Absolutely, and they have some new equipment that's coming out that makes it a lot easier to place stations closer to what we already have. So we've actually talked a little bit under some of the contracts with Concrete to make sure that if we're putting in a bus stop, we allow space for the bike sharing stations to go in. So we're working that out, and we're figuring out how best to do that and how to collaborate on those projects.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Jennifer? All right, thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is FAC 2022-02, and that is Kelly.
Thank you. Kelly Shields, I'm the VP of HR. If you'll turn to page 15 in your packet, I'll go over FAC 2022-02, Purchase of Health and Wellness Benefits. Annually, our benefits broker goes out to bid. They analyze our complete benefit package. This year, Arthur Gallagher, who is our broker, in collaboration with our procurement department, recommended the following carriers as having the lowest compliant and responsive bids. We're staying with all the same carriers that we have now. We did have with Blue Cross Blue Shield an increase of 9.7%, which we're sharing with our employees 75-25 cost share split. Funds are available in the 2022 operating budget. Therefore, request the Finance and Audit Committee recommend that the Trinity Metro Board of Directors authorize the President CEO to enter into 1-year contracts with the listed carriers for health care benefits. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Kelly?
With regards to the 10% increase in the share, what are we doing to communicate the good faith that the system is doing, carrying the brunt of that load to our staff so that they understand that we were looking out for their best interests across the board, not just because most employees only see, well, I'm getting an increase of this. They don't understand that Metro or any employer is actually stomaching the brunt of that. And I think it's important to make sure, you're probably already doing this, but that message is out there, is that there was an increase and we didn't want to put all that weight on our staff because we love what they do. And so is that being relayed appropriately, or how are you handling that?
Absolutely. We've already communicated to our employees about the 75-25 split, so they understand that there has been an increase. We do still have the wellness program. So if you participate in the wellness program, the split is 90-10. So if you're participating, which is what we're doing now, they get a huge benefit, which is great. If they don't participate, they do pay a little bit more. That's for employee only. If you're spouse, children, family, then you get a $50 discount on your benefits. So yeah, we want to make sure that we've got our employees covered.
Thank you.
One more, Kelly. This is in line with the clinic, and are you seeing successes with the clinic?
Absolutely. That's another thing, I guess, Benson, that would help is if you're on our benefit plan and you use our clinic, it is at a 0% copay. So,
for the newer members, can you tell a little bit more about the clinic?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. We have got a clinic that has been in place for a little over 2 years now, which is great. It's on site. Our employees can use it. If they're part of our medical plan, there's a zero copay. We've got a nurse practitioner there. And I mean, it's just a wonderful benefit. We have all of our bioscreens that have been done there. We can do pre-employment testing so they don't have to go to Concentra. It's cost effective for us. Flu shots. We had, when the initial vaccine came out, we had, it's set up there where we had 100 employees get their vaccine. We can do COVID testing there, so it's really a great benefit.
Any other questions? Question, how do we work, our operators don't actually work for Trinity Metro, correct? Don't they work for it? Yeah, so how does this benefit, how do we link all this together?
Well, it's kind of a fine line. Our contract with McDonald Transit is a management contract, but we kind of have all that in that contract. So even though it's a separate company, we handle their benefits, we handle their employee relations, we handle their recruitment. So, they're...
Yeah. Okay, same thing with Herzog then?
Herzog's a little bit different. They are more of a contractor, whereas McDonald Transit, the way that we've got the management contract set up, we handle more of their day-to-day operations.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Okay. Any other questions then?
I do. I have a quick question. Thank you for this information. So how does the fitness center, does it impact any of these rates as well? Because we provide, that's also provided for the employees, so does that kind of offset some of this cost as well?
It does, in the respect that the better health our employees have, the better our rates are.
Okay, good.
So that's, one of the big benefits of having a wellness center.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Kelly.
Comment.
Yeah.
When you talk about innovation in various ways, sometimes you think flying helicopters, sometimes it's having a clinic on site, like a wellness on site too, where you have better attendance by your employees. And that's pretty innovative as far as I'm concerned. It was really a great idea several years ago, Paul, to come up with this thought.
Yeah,
so it's really an important component of our benefits package.
Anything else? All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is FAC 2022-03, and there he is. We got Bruce.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bruce Lewis. I'm the Senior IT Director. And if you please turn to page 17 for the Intelligent Transit System Automatic Passenger Counter. APC is what we call that for short. And of course, as IT, we always have abbreviations, so I tried to tell you what before we started. On May 18th, 2020, Trinity Metro Board of Directors approved Board Action 2020-60, which is to purchase and implement the Trapeze Intelligent Transportation System, ITS is what we call that. Part of that contract was to integrate the entire intelligent transportation system into our bus fleet, and due to certain proprietary hardware such as the automatic passenger counters, which are the counters that are mounted inside the doors as people walk in and walk out, we count as they come in and out. We learned that company who sold those had proprietary connections on that device that we could not plug into our new system. And we also learned that the ADA signs that we currently have also had a proprietary device that was actually a miniature chip mounted in their hardware that kept us from mounting into those. Therefore, since we found these two things, we went to our budget, which we had a $4.2 million budget, and needed to do a change order to increase the purchase of that, and we're also keeping up with our 15% DBA for them, and we're currently under budget. So we're requesting the Finance and Audit Committee recommendation that the Trinity Metro Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to execute a change order to the contract 19054 with the Trapeze Vontis Corporation to purchase the Vehicle Next Stop Display ADA system and the automatic passenger counters for the contingency of $307,586.69 to increase the contract to the amount of $708,081.31, which will bring the total estimated amount to $4,091,534 and 99 cents. Have any questions?
Any questions for, Bruce?
Yes, sir.
Purchasing more proprietary?
No, sir. No, sir. We stay away from that all the way. They're a standard RJ45 connectors now. We go into anything, we wire right up to the new systems. Awesome. In IT, we strive to be all open as possible. No, we stay away from all that.
And anyone else, any other questions? All right, thank you, Bruce. I think you got the next one, too. Next item is FAC 2022-04, and that is technology equipment replacement. And Bruce, you're up again.
Y'all be on page 19 now. So to keep up with the current technology, as we all know, it's changing, the cybersecurity that we've all learned the hard way in the past recent years at Trinity Metro, we have implemented a 4-year replacement hardware. So every 4 years, 1/4 of our hardware, our monitors, keyboards, mice, laptops, servers, switches, anything of that age, we cycle out and buy new hardware to keep it all refreshed with the modern technology and new hardware. We are a Dell shop. We get the best deal from Dell. They've been Dell for a lot of years. Therefore, we use the DIR contract that Dell has for us, which saves us a lot of money. We receive almost a 50 to 75% discount on certain items and hardware when we purchase that. So this is our next stage of our next 4 years. We just finished the last 4 years in October. This will be our next 4 years of refreshing our hardware, 25%. We request the Finance and Audit Committee recommends to the Trinity Metro Board of Directors to authorize the President and CEO to approve purchases associated with the replacement of technology equipment from Dell Marketing LP through their DIR contract, DI TSO 3763, and listed technology equipment and service providers, $711,000 per year for 4 years, for a total of a 4-year estimated capital project amount of $2,844,000. Any questions?
I seem to be that guy today, I'm sorry. As we're coming up on the EOLs, the end of life on these tech rotation cycles, what are we doing with the ones that are rotating out? Are we able to, are they buying those back through the Dell program?
No.
Are we able to resell them to smaller agencies that can't afford our stuff? Or what's the plan for the cycle out?
The cycle out, because of the hardware is so old, we actually pull the hard drives out of them and wipe them and destroy them, and then we have just a unit left over. We have a company comes in and disposes of them. Due to the nature of the materials, the mercuries and the heavy metals are in there, we have them destroyed to them. They give us a piece of paper with all the serial numbers, license numbers, and all the hardware they destroyed, saying they did it properly, so we can track that. So it doesn't wind up in a landfill, so we get it.
Just a straight up tech recycling program. Are we doing anything to capture the credit for recycling those techs, so that as part of our green initiatives or any of that, we can show that we've done the procedure and have documented that trail?
We keep the documents for 7 years. We've also learned that due to the fact that by the time we tried to auction them off, we lost money. If we tried to sell them off, people don't want them because we keep the hard drives out of them.
Sure.
And due to the age, a lot of people don't want them anymore, even though actually some are good hardware still in my mind.
Right.
But we've found that we lose money every time we turn around. This company comes in, takes everything we have, no matter what condition it is, doesn't really ask any questions. We get all the documentation, and they dispose of it for us.
For a while there were some federal additional grants and rewards for showing an entity like ours recycling that tech back out. So
okay.
It might be something for Chad and Disney to look into. Just it might be a check mark on a grant we're looking.
No, I like money back. It makes me happy.
It gives us extra credit. That's all I care about.
I like credit.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions for Bruce?
Thank you all.
Excuse me? Okay, I think that's all the items. So what we're gonna need to do is have a motion. We'll just call all the items at once. We need a motion and then a second.
Move to approve.
Sorry, Michael, did you say? Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
You? All right, let me go down the roll one at a time. Michael Crane? Charles Edmonds? Yes. Ben Robertson? Paul Schlechter? Yes. And Nick Genowitz says yes. Okay. That concludes committee reports, other than,
Okay, let's move into the IR reports. Rail, Charles?
Community
information.
Yeah, let me have this. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Next commuter rail report, John Eric Arginin will make the report. John?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman. My name is John Eric Arginin, Vice President, COO of REL for Trinity Metro. Before we go, if everyone would please turn to page 23. Before we get into safety, though, one thing that I wanted to point out to the team, for those of you aware of the freight or the rail industry, you understand it's a heavily male-dominated field. And proud to say that TexRail just promoted its first female engineer this last week. So if you look across the industry, it is very rare. We're really proud of what Herzog, our partner, has done there. Starting off with safety, transportation, and maintenance of equipment, if you'll look, 1,359 days injury-free. So basically, from the day we started testing to currently, we have had no injuries on both the transportation and the maintenance equipment side. We're a little less than 2 months away from 4 years injury-free. On the maintenance away and signal, 429 days injury-free. Looking at, so last couple of weeks ago when we had our board, I talked a little bit about our on-time performance and the great job that our contractor, Herzog, and staff are really doing on driving excellence here at TexRail. As you will see, we finished up September of 2021 at a 99.8% on-time performance. And with September, we closed out our fiscal year. And FY21, we completed the year with a goal of 97, but a performance of 99.32% on-time performance, which is an increase over FY20's performance of 99.05%, also over goal. Monthly ridership, good news story when Chairman Edwards mentioned it early on, that our year-over-year performance for September was 104% increase. And our month-over-month was a 14% increase. If you look at the bottom, you'll see FY20 year-to-date, or year-to-date versus FY21. That is 90% recovered ridership. And that is great when you look across the industry, the commuter rail industry across the nation. On page 26, talk a little bit about our weekday ridership average. You'll see the year-over-year increase was 96% with a 11% month-over-month increase. On page 27, Saturday ridership, you will see a strong increase of 136% for year-over-year with a 34% increase month-over-month. I would note, Paul Schlechter probably realizes what's going on in September. We had our Grape Fest, and we had strong ridership. And when you look at some of the specific stations, you will see how Grapevine was #1 on our Saturday ridership, and actually North Richland Hills Smithfield Station was #2. So we're seeing, and Melissa will talk a little bit about the coordination we did and the partnership we had to drive some of that traffic towards Grapevine. And on page 28, year-over-year, 101% increase for our Sunday average ridership with a month-over-month increase of 31%. And then on page 29, a little bit more about station specifics. So you see DFW Terminal B for our weekday ridership remains #1, followed by Fort Worth Central Station and Grapevine Station. On page 30, the Saturday average ridership. This is the one I was really talking about when you look at the Grapevine, the Grape Fest that we had. Just an extraordinary partnership and working with PW and the team over there. But Grapevine Main Street Station was #1, followed by North Richland Hills Smithfield Station. So seeing that, that's exactly what we want to continue to see increasing over there in the Tri-Cities over in that area. And the final page for TexRail on page 31, Sunday ridership, DFW Airport Terminal B was #1, followed by Grapevine, Fort Worth Central Station, and Fort Worth TMP. Any questions on TexRail before I move on to TRE?
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Proud of Grapevine and NRH in addition to all the other stations, but My question, I meant to ask this a couple of months ago, are we making these reports available to Grapevine and Northridge and Hills? If not, can we consider doing
Yes,
so?
we will
I think it'd be a
absolutely.
great selling point.
We'll get it out to them. And I know, Paul Schlecht has asked me for ridership, or Grapevine has asked me for ridership for specific events. We provided that to him, but as far as this report, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, AJ, I have a question. Is there any chance we could have a festival every month? All right.
Well, I can tell you, board member, that we have, the Parade of Lights coming up on Sunday. Let me tell you, last Parade of Lights we did 2 years ago, the ridership for that Sunday was 3,400 riders. So, we were running hour headways that time, and quite a bit of congestion there on the station platform, and we lost out on a lot of riders. So what I'm doing is running trains that late at night on Sundays, 30-minute headways, so we can clean those out and hopefully have an even higher ridership than that 3,400.
I want to be delicate about this. And this is a cross-functional thing, so I just can't point my finger at one person, but, I was on, TexRail to the airport. In the past 2 weeks, I've been on it 4 times, out and back. And, I mean, the signage is just, it doesn't help us. And I don't know what we can do about it. Where is it then? Where is it then?
From the airport side.
Yeah, from the airport side. Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And again, I'm looking at Melissa again, you know, it's cross-functional, it's cross whatever, but, I mean, it's unfair to us, quite frankly. I mean, if they're gonna let us in the airport, they ought to at least give us good signage, you know?
And I can tell you that is those are ongoing conversations that we have with them. We between myself, Melissa and her team, even Deetra and her team, have reached out to them and continuing to work through it. I won't go through the issues, but I'll just say we'll continue to work through that.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's nowhere to go.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the frequency, but
If it's your first time, it is kind of hard to find.
It is, absolutely. And it's really, you know, when speaking to DFW Airport, in America, here in the United States, it's a little bit different than in Europe. In Europe, when they see ground transportation, everyone understands that's where it is, that's where people are to go to. We don't necessarily have that because we're not as used to Northeast and some of the, you know, coast they have it, but, you know, Central Texas or right here in the Midwest, you know, they're not used to it. So we're continuing to work with DFW Airport because it can be challenging.
One more quick comment. The problem isn't, we could have better signage, but the real problem is that none of the employees know where it is. I mean, if you're coming out of a terminal and you stop and ask an employee at a restaurant or, you know, somebody's giving directions or whatever, they don't know where it is. Now, I don't know how we get, with that many employees, I don't know how we can educate the employees, but we need some kind of an orientation or some kind of incentive program so that they pay attention to where it is.
Absolutely. We will set up a meeting with DFW Airport, and I know Deetra has worked with their ambassadors over there to provide that information. So we will continue working with DFW to improve, number one, the knowledge base and see what we can do for a signage perspective as well.
Just to echo what's been said, that's the same complaint that I get in Grapevine, is that the signage is bad and the people that work there, they maybe don't even know there's a train. I don't know, maybe we need a field trip. Maybe we need a board field trip over there.
Yeah. I'm ready.
Act like customers and see how hard it is.
Absolutely.
How about a field trip to DC? To piggyback on Nick's comment, when I got in last Wednesday, of course, I'm not very good about packing lightly for a 3-day trip, and so consequently I had to check my bag in. But anyway, so I go outside Terminal Link's there, and of course, I ride it frequently enough to know that it's gonna take me to Terminal B if it says Terminal A and B. But I noticed that on their electronic scroll, it said Terminal A and B, and then it flipped, it said Dart Rail. And then it flipped back to Terminal A and B, and then it flipped back to Dart Rail. And so even though I knew where I was going, I asked the driver, I said, are you going to TexRail also? And he goes, oh yeah. I said, well, it's not on your scroll. And he goes, I hadn't noticed, I'll check on that. And so, of course, I got on, he took me to Terminal B, very helpful young man. I knew where I was going, but he exactly told me, go through the second set of doors, go upstairs, go downstairs, and it told me exactly where to go. So that was perfect. But it was just the fact that on the scroll, it didn't say TexRail, it only said Dart Rail.
Well, we will look into that. I appreciate it.
And it may be a free concern.
Thank you for the report. I just wanted to mention, there's, a constant push to bring in more tourism, right, in the areas. So I happened to meet with somebody from Visit Fort Worth the other day, and I just think that might be a good resource for us to possibly encourage the airport, if we can get some of these local tourism boards to help us with that initiative. Maybe they could encourage them to put more signage, because, we have those frequent travelers that come in to the airport, like ourselves and some of our board members and people that are local, but we also want to bring tourists and encourage them to use it. So maybe we can work with them and use them as a resource.
Absolutely. We work closely with Visit Fort Worth, and really, we see a great deal of ridership opportunity and conventions coming back.
Absolutely.
When these conventions are coming in town when they're not local, reach out to the conventionaires and let them know that, hey, here's how you travel to Fort Worth.
Right. Exactly.
So we will continue to work with them. Appreciate it, Teresa.
Thank you so much.
Any additional questions on TexRail before I move on to TRE? All right, outstanding. If you'd please turn to page 33, we'll begin with safety on TRE. Still continue to do well from a safety perspective. Transportation and maintenance of equipment, 104 days injury-free, with maintenance away and signal at 337, approaching their 1-year mark. TRE on-time performance, again, September, we closed out the month of September at 99.1% on time, and we also closed out the fiscal year in September. And really, if you look over the past several years of where the ridership was and where it is now, it's something this team has to be extremely proud of. It's something we truly are. FY20, we completed our on-time performance under the 97% goal at 96.21. However, in FY21, we were able to improve that significantly above goal to 98.51%. And I can tell you this this past month, we finished at 99.09% on time. TRE monthly ridership, another opportunity to continue increasing the ridership. You'll see year over year for the month of September was 58% increase, with a 13% increase month over month. Page 36, average weekday ridership. For September, we had a year over year increase of 56% and a month over month increase of 12%. On page 37, TRE average Saturday ridership for September was 2,628, which was a year-over-year increase of 44% and a month-over-month increase of 47%. I will tell you the numbers in September had approximately 6 days of Texas State Fair ridership that were included into it. And on page 38, average weekday ridership, you can see Eddie Bernice Johnson Union Station was the most populous, followed behind by Victory Station and Fort Worth Central Station and Fort Worth TMP. And finally, on page 39, the TRE average Saturday ridership, station specific, Eddie Bernice Johnson Union Station #1, again followed by Victory Station in Dallas, Fort Worth Central Station, and Fort Worth TMP. For the new board members, you may not be aware, but you'll notice that there's Sunday ridership reported for TexRail, but not for TRE. We do not run standard service on Sundays for TRE. However, it is something that we are looking looking towards in the future, and that has come through our TRE Management Committee as well as the TRE Advisory Committee. And overall, I would just, just to wrap it in a bow, the operational improvements that we've seen year over year, just a testament to the professionals we have here at TexRail, at TRE, and our contractors, Herzog, who have done a tremendous job keeping our passengers safe, our people safe, and providing on-time performance that really exceeds industry standards. So that's all I have unless there are any questions. All right, thank you.
I think we're gonna move to the POM reports, and so the first report will be operations report by Wayne.
Thank you, Chairman Nettles, and welcome, board members. We have equally successful news. I think, as you might recall, last month I provided you the year-end results for the bus and paratransit as well as our maintenance department. And so we really did have a very successful year. When I look back at my career and I look at the different agencies I was in, I know that we perform really at a high level here, and I'm very proud of the team. So turning to page 42, you could see fixed route on-time performance for the month. They were at 89.8%. Just a little bit of information on that as well. When you go down West 7th, I was looking at all the routes that travel down West 7th. They're at less than 82%, generally speaking, on-time performance due to all that construction. So it really does affect us, but quite frankly, the team has done really well. They haven't had any collisions on that road, and sometimes it's very challenging, to be frank. Turning to page 43, you'll see miles between row calls. For the new members, I just want to just tell you, higher is better here. So that means we're making less row calls, and we made the goal. Higher is better, and we had 44 row calls in the month. So that's what that 12,012 miles represents from the maintenance standpoint. Turning to the next page, page 44, we have preventable major collisions per 100,000 miles. You might hear people call this accident frequency ratio. That's just a calculation of the number of collisions per 100,000 miles. Lower is better in this report. We had 0. You could see for 11 months we've had very successful operations with regards to preventable major collisions. Turning to the next page, page 45, we have preventable collisions per 100,000 miles. Again, the same calculation. Lower is better. We made the goal. So we were below the 1.71, lower is better. And for this number, 7 was the number represented in that 1.32. So those minor accidents are the ones that might have happened on the lot, or they may have hit a bus stop sign, or they may have hit a branch that broke the mirror. So those are the type of minor incidents that I'm talking about. Turning to page 46. This is non-preventable collisions per 100,000 miles. There is no goal in this calculation, and the reason for that is this is the public hitting our vehicles. We in operations sometimes wonder how that happens, but it does happen. We had 13 in a month. So.
Hey, my wife did it one time. On the record.
All right, see?
You did
exactly. All right. So, turning to page 47, we have Access in-house on-time performance. And in-house, just so everybody understands Access. So, Access, first off, is paratransit services. It's a complementary service to our fixed route service. So, it's for the people that are disabled. And everybody has to be certified, and that's how the rides are scheduled. So, we are at 88.8% for the month. For the year, they made the goal, if you recall that back in last month's report. Turning to page 48, Access in-house. We have miles between row calls. They did not make the goal this month. You can see the rest of the year they did, but they had 14 row calls in the month. That represents the 7,015 miles between row calls for our Access in-house paratransit service. Turning to the next page, 49, Access in-house preventable major collisions.
Could that be the age of the vehicles?
Some of it's the age of the vehicle. Some of it is just we had a lot of check engine lights in the number, as well as air condition issues. And once the air conditioner's not working, we can't utilize the system. We have to bring the bus back, and so that's going on there. So access in-house on page 49, preventable major collisions. So it's the same thing. Major collision is any damage over $1,000, a vehicle gets towed, or someone's taken away to get medical attention. 11 months straight without any collisions there, major collisions, and we had 0 for the month. Turning to page 50, access in-house, preventable collisions, that's major collisions and minor collisions. We made the goal. We had 0 for the month. Again, lower is better. Turning to page 51, access in-house, non-preventable collisions. Again, no goal. This is the public. The 4.07 is represented by 4 people hitting our vehicles. So, turning to page 52, we have access contract. And just so you understand why we say in-house and contract, our in-house services are with cutaway vehicles. We have McDonald Transit employees operating those vehicles. They are paid differently than yellow cab. That's what access contract is. It's a yellow cab contract. They in essence operate like an owner-operator does, and they're paid by yellow cab and managed by yellow cab. They performed at a 90.9% on-time performance. Turning to page 53, access contract, miles between road calls. If you remember, when we set goals for this year, I increased it because they were, as you could see all year, really beating it. And that was the first time we tracked it. So we upped that in the new goals for this year. But you can see for the month, they went 67,733 miles between road calls. That represents 2 road calls for the month. All right. Turning to page 54, access contract, preventable major collisions. They had 0, hence the 0.00 AFR, or accident frequency ratio. Turning to page 55, preventable collisions per 100,000 miles. They hit 0.74. It's below the goal. That is represented by 1 collision that they had. And that's the end of the KPIs for operations. It's been really a wonderful year. Our team has started out this year successfully as well. But I very, very much do appreciate everything that the whole team does. Every driver, every mechanic, every supervisor, every manager goes out and gives it their all each and every day, and I am very proud of them, to say the least. Thank you. Any questions?
I have a quick question for Dwayne. On the access in-house on-time performance, we're showing essentially a 6-month steady decline of on-time performance of 5.8%. Is there any metric or understanding of why that seems to be dropping, or is that just?
Yeah, absolutely, and a good question. Some of it is we've had higher absenteeism later in the COVID life cycle than we had in the beginning of it. And also now we're adding more passengers. So more passengers coming back to the system. So we're adding more passengers per hour, and it takes a little bit longer to pick up and deliver people with disabilities. So it's very important. We got to get it right each and every time we do that. And so sometimes it takes longer, and hence you don't make the time points like you would like. Okay.
Have an issue finding drivers or employees, and 2, supply chain, is that affecting your timeliness of your repairs?
So yeah, good question. I will tell you that we've had some ups and downs with regards to the delivery of parts. We've really put a pressure on through procurement and myself, talking to our suppliers, making sure we got our goods on hand that we need to service the vehicles. So there has been some delay early on in COVID, especially. It's gotten a little bit better, a little more predictable now. We haven't ever got to the point where I couldn't put enough buses on the road because I don't have parts, or we couldn't repair it. So we've done well there. Regarding drivers, I think that's, again, another story. Early on, I would say no in COVID. Then it got tighter. The market got tighter. You heard of the Great Resignation. Everybody talks about that. We struggled in the past 2 to 4 months getting classes that we like. And when we say what we like is 20 or more in a class every time we hold a class. But here most recently, thanks to Kelly and her team, We have a class of about 20 for this next class coming up. So a glimmer of light. That doesn't mean we ever give up, and I know Kelly and I have this conversation day in and day out. Never give up, keep pushing, find new ways, and we're doing a lot of different things. Our team has stepped up and doing a lot of different things, and we really have a nice class. So I'm confident that we can do it. We do have a new labor contract with new labor rates. That's another thing that helps attract people. But you know, ultimately we need to retain. And that's what we got to do, and that is by making it an enviable place to work, and that's what we try to do every day.
Chris, I've got a question. I got a confession to make. I just segued off being the committee chair of POM for 2 years, and now I look at these numbers and I go, wow, there's stuff in here I never realized there before. How do you? There has to be something tangible. I mean, it's, you know, you can say, hey, be careful out there. But to get to these numbers, what do you got? I mean, what tangible thing are you doing there has to be something that.
Well, everybody on your staff has to be talking about safety. Each and every one of us is involved in
I'm talking
safety.
about an individual operator. How do you? This is just phenomenal.
You talk to them about it, and you make sure that you give them the information, and you make sure that they buy into safety. I'm telling you, they're doing a tremendous job. I've been across many organizations in North America, and this team, first off, they listen. Our employees listen intently. They give you the respect when you're in front of them and talking to them. We've been here with them from day one when COVID started. And this began way before COVID, but I'm just bringing that up because management was there. We were talking to our employees. We never lost sight of who we are managing, and they don't lose that respect of us. And when we talk about safety, they sit and listen, and that's what we do. We just had a quarterly meeting. We talked about safety. We always encourage people to do the right thing. We provide training if there is an incident, and we make sure that people understand how to avoid that the next go around. Most of our collisions are the minor varieties. It's the ones that I talked of under $1,000, generally hitting a mirror or something like that. So it's just a good, strong team. You don't find that in every market, and this is a really positive thing that we have, and I'm just really proud of them. And I don't know how to say it, but keep on talking to them and getting them engaged.
Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations. That's terrific.
Right? All right, thanks.
So much for your hard work. Next, we will have our ridership report by Chad Edwards.
Good afternoon. I'm back. Just one report this month. Thank you very much. Chad Edwards, VP Planning and Development here at Trinity Metro to give you September's ridership report. If you've had a chance to flip through the ridership I guess I can. Thank you. This is awesome. I'm going to pay whoever later for doing that. If you turn to page 58, I have glasses, 58, you'll see our system-wide monthly ridership for September. And you can see that September of this year compared to September last year, we're 29.2% above that of last year. So that's a 10% month-over-month gain, which is pretty fantastic, I think, compared to where we were last year and even months before that with COVID. We're actually at 75% of our year-to-date fiscal year numbers. So it's a good turnaround story for us as our system is coming back and people are coming back to ride our different modes. If you go to page 59, it's fixed route monthly ridership, which is our buses, and you can see that for fixed route, we're at 14% over September of last year. So a continued increase, and we're at 8.6% month over month from August to September. So as you remember, we implemented a better connection in September 5th of this year, and we have definitely seen a gain of ridership, which is what we were trying to do with trying to improve the system overall. So we've seen that gain, and we continue to see that gain as well. If you go to page 60, this is the same slide that AJ had shared with you on our TRE monthly ridership. You can see here we're at 85,000 riders, which is 58% above last year. On page 61, you can see our TexRail ridership. This is a great story here as well, at 104% over September of last year, and actually about 90% recovered as well, as AJ had mentioned. On page 62, you'll see our Access in-house ridership, and this is a 29.4% increase over September of last year at 8,229 riders, which is an 88% recovery of riders over the fiscal year of last year. If you move to page 63, this is our Access contract monthly ridership, and as Wayne had mentioned, this is our yellow cab service, or our contracted service, and we're at 27.8% above September of last year at 12,953 riders for this particular service. Our Zip Zone ridership, if you go to page 64, almost couldn't fit it all in the graph because of the increase here is so substantial. It's a fantastic number here, and it's hard for me to even say this out loud, but it's 507% increase. It's pretty amazing. Now, we have had some service changes, expansions of our Zip Zone service areas, and then added Zip Zones as well, but it's still a fantastic number, I think. It's a partnership with the city as well for Zip Zones, and so this is a great story that we can take back between Trinity Metro and the city as well. If you move to page 65, these are other services. These other services include our van pools, our TCTS, which is Tarrant County Transportation Services, NETS, which is also Northeast Transportation Services, and our Grapevine Shuttle. And so you can see here we're 51.4% above September of last year at 18,316, and we're only 5% below our FY 2020 fiscal year numbers at that point. If you move to page 66, this is our fixed route revenue numbers, and you can see here that we're 23.6% below our September of last year. Part of that is because we provided our complimentary service the first week after we implemented a better connection, and then we have our discounted services as well for the point after that week on to the end of the year. So you'll see a little bit of an impact in revenue as we foresaw, but it's also because we're trying to get the riders to better understand the system as well, and not to penalize them for taking the wrong route if they are on a fixed income or really having a hard time paying for that service. If you go to page 67, this is our access revenue. You can see here that we are 73% below September of last year. Part of that is due to some accounting and invoicing issues. So there's a big discrepancy between 2020 and 2021, and a part of that is just that accounting from our contract services. All right. Page 68 is our summary of our average fare per boarding at 89 cents for system-wide for September of 2021, and then our average fare per boarding for fiscal year FY 2021 is actually $1.30, I should say. And the last page I have is our service highlights. Again, some good news stories here where we provided 11,011 fixed route trips to the medical district for a total of 130,000 trips over the year which is a really good number, I think, for us. Another highlight here is our medical trips using our paratransit service. This month was 6,066 for a total of 74,000 trips over the year. And lastly, our job seekers, we had 5,351 people who used our services to get to jobs, for a total of 59,000 people who used our services to get to jobs and actually interviews for jobs. So it was a really good number, I think, a good service for us to provide to the community so that they can seek a new job and benefit themselves there. So with that, I'll end and answer any questions you might have. Yes, sir.
Do we have a recap on TCC ridership with our path? Do we know?
We can get that for you, yes.
For sure.
I think the
Going up.
numbers are increasing.
They're live?
You have it,
Oh, yeah.
so Melissa will have that.
Thanks.
Chad, with reference to the Zip Zone monthly ridership, the 3 or 4 new members of the board, I know we're at 507%, that's amazing. Can you just give them a quick overview of the neighborhoods we expanded into? So I think we doubled our service area and hit some very strategic expansion neighborhoods, and, 100% increase has yielded 507% rider. So just so that they can get caught up, because that was a really big initiative from y'all's team
Sure.
that I don't want to play lightly on.
Sure. Well, I think one or two of the board members who are council members have participated in that in one way or another. But certainly we have 4 different zip zones. One is in Alliance area, and that one has been modified slightly to include some areas over west to Meacham Airport and north of 820. Sorry, that's the Mercantile. I'm thinking Alliance. Sorry, Alliance has not changed too terribly much. The Mercantile zip zone has expanded west to Meacham Airport. Thank you. And north of 820, all the way up to the Burlington Northern Santa Fe offices up there. The south side zip zone has been the one I think that has changed the most, and it has included the 76104 zip code, but it has also expanded over to the west and included the West 7th Street area as well, so that people can get around from to grocery stores, to medical district appointments. It has expanded south as well. I can't remember the Berry Street? Yeah, all the way down. Yeah, and inclusive TCU and Berry Street. There's a couple of grocery stores there on Berry Street as well that helps provide that service and that grocery desert fix temporarily, if we can say it that way. And then we've also have the South Tarrant zip zone as well. That is the Crowley and Everman zip zone, where it's connected to the TCC South campus. And so there's students that can use that. There's also folks who live in the city who can then ride the zip zone, get access to the rest of our system, and move throughout Fort Worth as well. So, yeah, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question, in the area, particularly in the medical district area, how early do we start there, since some of those folks enter pretty early in the morning? So what is the hours?
For the zip zones? I think it's 9 o'clock. Yes, ma'am.
Cool.
Zip zones? Oh,
6 a.m.
sorry,
6 a.m.?
I'm thinking of Dash.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah, Dash is 9 a.m. Zip zone is 6 a.m. Sorry.
I was just curious, because a lot of them, I know that most of them have to try to be there by 6. I was just wondering how often we meet with the hospital staff to just kind of find out, is that conducive and convenient for them? Because I've had some folks that have reached out and said, is there any way that they could possibly look at doing it
Start
just
a
a little
early.
bit earlier?
Okay.
So we could just connect with them and see if that works, and if not,
All right.
thank you.
All right.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I think we're moving down to marketing and communication report by Melissa.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. How is everybody this afternoon? I'm Melissa Chrisman, Vice President of Marketing and Communications. And starting on page 70 in your packets, we'll go ahead and review marketing and communications activities in the month of September. I'm actually going to go ahead and immediately have you turn the page to 71, where we can talk about our featured paid advertising campaign. Obviously, you've heard a lot of the previous reports talk about the system redesign implementation, which happened in early September. So our team really focused our efforts on marketing and advertising to get people acquainted with the new routes. So through newspaper ads, online ads, radio advertising, and one of my favorite things that you can see on the bottom right-hand side of your page is we did displays at convenience stores, which were located in close proximity to the new routes. So gas pump toppers, printed billboards on the side of their buildings, and got some great exposure through that. So our campaign messages for this campaign were seen just under 5 million times. And of course, you heard Chad talk about our fixed route success, but our team exceeded our marketing goal for the campaign in regards to fixed route ridership, reaching that 286,230 rides mark. Turning over to page 72, you talked a lot about Great Fest today, so of course I wanted to talk about it too, and AJ kind of teed me up earlier to talk through some of the things we did from our department's perspective. But so Trinity Metro TexRail was actually promoted as the transportation partner going to Great Fest, and the CVB, they really did an excellent job. You can see some examples of the things that they did to help promote riding TexRail there on the page, basically saying it's the best way to get there, and even offered a $2 off incentive. So if you showed proof of riding TexRail to Great Fest, you were able to get $2 off your admission ticket. So along with the great ridership you heard of from both Chad and AJ, we're also really happy to report out that a total of 49% of tickets sold near the Grapevine Main Street station did in fact show proof of riding TexRail. So those were tickets purchased at Hotel Vin at the Visitor Center and that kind of south the house that they set up in the middle of the road there. So very impressive numbers there. On page 73, in the top of 74, is an overview of our news media coverage, or what we call earned media coverage. The system redesign was also top billing there, and I think it's probably important to talk through some of the details of what this great coverage gets us. Our Director of Communications, Laura Hanna, does a great job of making sure that we are written about frequently, as you can see in all of those clippings. But in September, our earned media netted just under 30 million views and had an estimated value of over $28 million. So I hope that you'll spend some time reading through all that good coverage when you have the chance. On the bottom of page 74, you can see our social media performance. Facebook and Instagram both performed well month over month. Instagram performed well year over year. Twitter continues to be a struggle for us, so we tend to kind of invest our time more heavily on Facebook and Instagram because that's where we see people wanting to talk to us. Moving on to page 75, at the top of the page are some highlights from our post on Nextdoor. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Nextdoor, but it is a social media app that's very, very specifically targeted to neighborhoods, which we love because then we can say things that are going to be important to people in those neighborhoods. Like, I want to know if Route 21 is changing in West Meadowbrook. Tell me about that because that's my neighborhood. So we have been using that and been pretty excited about what we've gotten out of it, but you can see 38,714 people saw our messages on Nextdoor. In the middle of that same page, you can see that we added 274 subscribers to our email and text database, bringing that list to a total of 26,581 subscribers. Of course, this was extremely helpful when we were promoting those new routes in September to have access to all of those people. At the bottom of page 75 is our website performance. We like seeing those stair steps up, right? So more people are visiting our site and they're spending time with more pages, which we also like to see. I think it's no surprise with the system redesign and Great Fest that routes and schedules for both bus and TexRail were the most viewed pages. Looking at page 76, there's that TCC ridership overview. And I kind of teased it last month because I said that preliminary numbers were pointing at a nice increase in ridership month over month at TCC, but there's still a lot of work to do. But with the campuses fully open, we saw a 77% month over month increase in between August and September. And I'm thinking things are going in the right direction because just a quick look at October is actually showing a 59% increase over September. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report, and I'll happily answer any questions.
Melissa, the APTA award, will we be incorporating that into some social media?
It's already up on our website. It just went up today, so no apology necessary. We'll make sure we get it up there so we don't miss you next time.
Good, great.
Events like the Hispanic Chambers Parade and the ownership of some of our wrapped and branded buses and how effective that campaign has been I think the board really needs to hear how much that group and some of the other buses, other groups love their bus and have been out there stomping and selling us for that.
Sure. Well, I had the great pleasure of being with Ben and Teresa for Fort Worth Dia de los Muertos festivities in the end of October. And we kind of had a twofold partnership for that event. We worked with Teresa to help get a place for her sister city representatives to ride. They decorated, had great fun. We had skeletons riding in the bus. It was very, very well done. But then the other bus that we had in the parade was actually a bus that we had wrapped in partnership with the Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to promote their program, which is called Echo on Fort Worth. And it's basically all about supporting businesses that are homegrown, raised here in Fort Worth, not necessarily Hispanic owned, obviously primarily Hispanic owned, but all businesses that are a part of their organization and really celebrating that localness. And we debuted that bus at the Chamber Gala in the end of September, and Annette Landeros, the president of the Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber, made mention to numerous people that she had to call her father, who is a bus driver down in San Antonio, and let him know that her bus is cooler than his bus. So we really liked hearing that. But yeah, they've posted that bus all over social media for their followers with the Hispanic Chamber. They want to get it out at as many events as possible. We did have it in that parade, and they're continuing that theme. So they're going to keep that Made in Fort Worth theme going. I see it's already the theme of their next year's activities as well. So it really gives us a lot of opportunities to be out in front of the public in partnership with that group. And they love transit, and, you know, we love working with folks who love transit. Anything else?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Again, good afternoon, Board of Directors. I'm Deetra Whitmore, Vice President of Customer Experience, and I'm pleased to present to you the month and year-end report for Customer Relations. Please turn your attention to page 79. September was a busy month for the call center. Roughly 26,000 calls came through our system, which is about 5,000 more calls just over last month, and a 63% increase over the same time last year. For FY21, we had a total of 213,000 calls and reached out to 616 customers regarding their concerns, complaints, or accommodations. These are customers who shared their contact information with the care reps. Of our total calls for September, 846 were from our Spanish-speaking customers. Due to our system redesign, our average wait time has increased a bit, which is above our average goal of 1 minute. But it was important for us to take the time with our customers to answer their questions and help them to understand the new system. Once our customers get familiar and comfortable with our changes, we expect that number to go down. Moving to page 80, under Customer Expectations, 111 team members received commendations in 2021. This is 12 more than we did last year. This illustrates that our team continues to make the effort to deliver great customer service. It definitely shows on the access graph below. Great job on our access team. Complaints went down 37%. In the middle of the page, these are still our top complaints. Late bus, late access pickup, passed by passenger at stop, and rude driver fixed route. We continue to work on improving our customers' experience in these areas. As I mentioned last month, we have started our customer service training with our customer care reps, and in working with our training department, this will extend to the rest of our team members. For late buses, our operators do a great job, but sometimes traffic can cause delays, or when passengers in wheelchairs, we have to make sure they're secure before we continue on. for passengers pass-bys, we will work with operations to remind operators to always be alert when approaching bus stops. But this also is a responsibility of our riders. So to help them, more Transit One-on-One outreach, and it's being planned with our Transit Envoys to remind and educate our riders on the rules of riding our buses. We will be meeting with neighborhood associations, continuing to work with organizations, and also work with marketing to update videos that we've done in the past. And so with these strategies along with our D&I program, I am confident to see a lot of improvements in these areas. And because, there is a link between customer experience and employee experience. We really can't improve one without improving the other. Before I give you an update on the activities of our Transit Envoys, I would like for the team to please stand. So these are your Transit Envoys. These awesome rock stars are out in the community creating great customer experience. For 2021, we connected with 8,000 customers and introduced 196 new riders to our service through our travel training program that is really complimentary to our customers. They have also been busy attending various events in the community. We were featured in Fort Worth ISD Project Search virtual conference in July, which is a national conference. That's where they talked about easing the anxiety of students to empower them on using transit through our travel training program. And also you can see a list of other activities that they attended. Thanks, team. Moving on to page 81, it is always a treat to continue to give positive updates on our van pool program. Although we lost one group, we are still over our goal of 67. And the highlight for 2021, not only did we exceed our goal, but we added 17 new van pool groups. Hopefully this trend will continue as people come back to work and businesses keep hiring. Our diversity and inclusion program continues to be well received by our team members. We actually have 100 team members left to attend the training, so we're almost done. Then we'll start working on putting together our committee and working on the strategic plan. We will also have a D&I landing page on our website. We're working with marketing on that as well. D&I is the forefront of many, many organizations and businesses. The American Public Transportation Association, APTA, proposed a 2-year racial equity commitment pilot program that started this fall. This is a roadmap for advancing racial equity on behalf of transit organizations. And improving diversity, equity, and inclusion in transit profession is one of APTA's strategic priorities and ours as well. We have until March 2022 to sign up and participate in this program. So we do have time to get ready to sign up for this. Therefore, I will be bringing this to the board for recommendation in January. Then lastly, we finished 2021 well above our goal for our Adopt a Stop program. We now currently have 240 stops adopted system-wide. This is a 46% increase over 2020. So for 2021, I think I need to raise my goal, right? Maybe 60 stops a year? All right, so that's my report, Mr. Chairman. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I think we have a few questions.
My bit today. I've actually been stumping for the Adopt a Stop after our last meeting for you, and people have asked me questions I don't have answers to. Would you mind emailing this board just the summary on the Adopt a Stop and who to contact, what that actually commitment looks like? Just what is the elevator pitch so that we can be good advocates for that for you with the people we're out there talking to. So I've got 3 or 4 schools that are interested because, of course, nonprofit hour, or community service hours and things like that. But also, if anybody's met my daughter, she said, oh, that's something, why aren't we already doing that? So I just need a little more info so that I can be better prepared to help your goal. And if you don't raise that to 60, then we're all going to be disappointed in you. I think that goal should definitely be up there.
Definitely raise it. Your daughter is a rock star. So for our Adopt a Stop program, it's a litter-free program where we're asking individuals, organizations, churches to participate in helping to keep our bus stops clean, because it's a perception. It's a perception on our organization when we have clean bus stops and you have, guests, visitors coming into our city, they see Trinity Metro's bus stops, awesome looking, all manicured, no trash. So that's the whole point of the program. It's complimentary. No, actually, I wouldn't say complimentary. There is no charge to the participant, just your time. You know, if you have a bus stop with grass on it, you know, you can cut your grass like me, or one with concrete, just pick up the trash. We ask for you to check your bus stops every week. Once you become a bus stop adopter, you will get your name. After a month, you'll get your name on the bus stop sign. You will also get a shout out on social media. We also send you an adoption certificate after 1 year. So it's a big deal. You know, we got to make sure these bus stops are clean. But yes, I will definitely send you some information so you can pass the word on. You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the bus stop program was very successful in East Fort Worth, and very heavily traveled routes, had a lot of participation, and I think it was a very gratifying experience. I congratulate you on your success of that program.
Thank you.
The other thing was, when I was in Orlando, I wound up in a workshop, and it turned out that Deidre and I were in the same workshop, but there were 100 people there, and I didn't know she was there until the end when she gave a report for her group. We broke into groups. And, Mr. Chairman, I think in the future I'd like to maybe, perhaps at a retreat or maybe some kind of workshop, become more familiar with the work that Deidre's doing, because it really has more to it than I think the board knows, and I think she deserves credit for the program, and I think success for the program, and I endorse this after program that she's suggesting we join. It's a 2-year pilot program, and at the end of 2 years, the groups that do participate will get some recognition, and then they'll take the results of that 2-year pilot program and roll out a full program across APTA and all of the transportation authorities. So I think it's worthwhile, and I think we could learn something there, and I suggest that we consider it.
We'll bring it to the board in January. Good idea. Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, and also thank you, Charles. It's certainly an effort of the entire leadership team as we work to create a healthy work environment for all of the employees. And D&I is just not for within our organization. It's for how we put our services out, making sure we're equitable and where we're putting routes. Also, how we're choosing vendors, making sure we're equitable there. So it goes beyond the walls of our organization, but it starts within the walls here, creating that workplace environment where employees are happy, you know. Is there any questions? Is that it?
I think we're good. Thank you so much for your report.
Thank you.
I'm back over to you.
Audit, information reports.
Fred, you ready?
I'm Fred Crosley, Financial Officer of Trinity Metro. I will direct you to pages 83, 84, and 85 of the financial schedules. These results are preliminary. As you know, we are at our fiscal year end at September. We're under audit. Next, we will have the examination issued in December, so we should be in good shape. The audit. Just continue the streak of good news in the big scheme of things here. What we're seeing with sales tax for August of 21 compared to the prior August of 20, we saw a 20% increase, and even an increase over 19 by 16.9%. Now that continues on for the next month. We just got the numbers for November, or for September in last week, November. We're showing a 27.5% increase in September over September, and a 29.9% compared to September of 2019. So we have recovered a great deal of any lost sales tax. You can also see that in what we received from Grapevine in their contribution. Its contribution for August compared to the prior year is up 34.3%. So it's
Not
a good
enough,
sales
Paul.
tax collection month for Grapevine.
Yep. Paul, you hear that?
Not enough, Paul.
More festivals.
And that's even 3% higher than 2019, pre-pandemic. So, once again, positive news. If you take a look at overall for the year, we're up 12.4% over fiscal year 20. And in fact, we're going to be a little bit more than that because with the numbers we just received, it looks like we're going to get about another $1 million in sales tax revenue for the month of September. So that's good. Revenues for fiscal 21, fiscal year 21 were up from budget levels due to COVID-related grant funding, you know, the CARES Act, ARP, but were negatively impacted by the normal operating grants and fair revenues. And it's more of a timing issue with the revenue grants. We have to cross all the T's and dot all the I's before we can recognize it, and that exercise was not yet done. Largely because the state of Texas slowed down, had a funding imbalance and slowed down the amount of processed claims and activity, so they were trying to balance their books. So it delayed the filing of the tip. When you delay the filing of the tip, you move back everybody's ability to claim. It has to be on the tip before, and approved on the tip before you can actually get money from the feds. That make sense?
Tell us what the tip is.
I thought you had. There you go. I can never remember that one. There's also the STEP, which is the state transportation. Right. Yeah. Overall revenues for fiscal year 21 were up approximately 29% over budget amounts, budget revenues. About 87% of that was related to sales tax. Once again, showing the impact of sales tax. Operating expenses for 21 ran approximately 9.6% under budget, driven by lower operating costs than budget, lower staffing levels, and ZIPS-on cost increases. The overall, I think the team did a very good job, and were very good financial stewards of the organization's money. And so if you kind of rack it all together, I think the estimations that were done were the best estimations we could make for the year, going into a tough budget year given COVID, and they exceeded those expectations. So it's great work by the team. Grant revenues were down 10.6% for the fiscal year, and that's all timing differences once again. More information, as I said before, on the notes on page 85. You'll see on the balance sheet that we paid off the loan and debt obligations, so they're gone. We've been looking closely at cash flow. It remains strong at this particular point in time, so we don't see anything in the near future in terms of a cash shortage. And overall, in terms of the balance sheet, there's no real surprise. It's much of the same as in prior months. And with that, I'll conclude my report.
Any questions for Ed? Yeah, go ahead.
As we continue to see your positive reports in sales taxes, do you suggest, or are you expediting purchases or rotating any of our fleet materials, things like that, while the revenue's coming in? Can we get ahead of the game on any of our long-term planning?
Well, I think we go back and we look at how we allocate local funds, and the reality of the situation is we have a number of needs that really haven't been funded yet. So if these continue on, we projected as the city of Fort Worth did, projected a 4% increase. And we've seen recently, 15, 20% increases. So obviously, you know, a 10% increase is roughly $8 to $9 million. That'll free up a lot of money to do a lot of projects and make other considerations in terms of the operating side of things. So, yeah.
Awesome. Go ahead, Charles.
Everything on here except, your capital grants, note 13. I'll say, yeah, right. So, I understand it's a timing issue, but when you say it's a timing issue, does that mean that you anticipate that we're going to get the amount of money that we budgeted and it's gonna come in at some later date?
Yes, that's exactly what it means. If I didn't think it was a timing issue, I would basically say we lost this particular grant or this funding source.
So we're not gonna be short there. Good.
No, overall, over the 2 years or 3 years that we had the, you know, that time frame window, yeah.
Kind of, once again, we're talking about cross-functional thing here, but, last week, in Orlando, I sat in on a discussion relative to what took place last Friday in DC, and where, you know, Congress has approved, what, $1.2 trillion, I think? And one of the things, I mean, there was a lot of really interesting stuff that came out of it, but one of the things was, you know, it's kind of like the old vote early, but vote often. Well, the message was pretty clear: get in and get often. And that Fred, you and Chad, and we have a new person on board looking at all the grants and everything. You need to be really on top of that this year. You know, a lot of people look at that well, and they're gonna ask for a lot. So, something to keep in mind.
In fact, there's 2 programs out right now, 2 NOFOs out right now. One's attached to the actual ARP Act, and it's about $2.2 billion of discretionary. And they're asking for projects and things like that we're responded to or have responded to. And there's another one that was just released, a month, 6 weeks ago, having to do with bus facilities. And we'll also be responding to that. It's about $430 million in size, and we'll have some submissions for that as well.
Yeah.
NOFO, that's a notice of.
Yes.
We are all so guilty of doing it.
I like that
Next
NOFO.
each other, so that's funding opportunity. But that's really a good observation, I think. And well, President Biden has now signed the infrastructure bill, and there are some real challenges that I'm concerned with, quite frankly, and that is, number one, the ability for the Federal Transit Administration, the Federal Railway Administration to actually administer these funds in a timely fashion. And then secondly, I'm very concerned with our ability in other public transit systems to actually respond to submit projects. And so that's why I'm pleased to see that, you know, we've got ahead of that. We have a new capital grants person. You know, Fred's been on top of that. I think it's going to take more, quite frankly, because of the significant dollars that are out there. The downside of not collecting those dollars is that when you go back to Congress, they're going to say, whoa, look at the money you've got in the bank right now that you haven't spent, yet, you know, everyone's doing the best they can. Right now, our TexRail construction project is being audited. It's $900 million. And whatever you spend, you've got to make sure that 2, 3, 4 years down the road, that everything's lined up. And so we're very careful. Fred gives me very, very good reports that the findings are looking great on TexRail. I mean, I didn't expect anything else, but so this is, while it's very celebratory to have all this money, it's a lot of work, and we're really going to have to be careful to do it right, to be aggressive, and to go after it. So that's absolutely the lesson, is to be very, very aggressive.
And I'm not trying to be facetious, but your point about FRA, or FCA, yeah, if you're looking for a job in transit, I mean, they were, seriously, they said there's just going to be large.
Yes, there has to be. So,
Well, part
thanks
of
for raising that.
Yeah, well, part of the whole equation as well with those grants, you know, you always have to come up with local match. You know, and we have been so fiscally, responsible in that regard, you know, and paying off our debts, et cetera, et cetera. That money wasn't available, so
I mean,
we get more sales tax. It has a multiple effect, you know, if we get our 50% from sales tax, basically doubles what we can spend on capital.
yeah, I mean, we have virtually no debt to really speak of on the balance sheet.
I'm sorry?
We have no debt to speak of on the balance sheet,
No.
at least in long term, $3 million. So, anyhow, thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments or anything? All right, thank you, Fred.
All right.
Tito, do you have any from TOD?
Yes, I have just a few TOD-related updates.
Sure.
The TOD study update, an open house and in-person public meeting was held on October 27th at Meadowbrook Poly United Methodist Church, followed by an online on October the 28th. Shared on station area concepts, including redevelopment potential, multimodal connectivity, and potential zoning regulations and examples of similar successful implementations around the country. Feedback from the 59 attendees is currently being evaluated and incorporated into the report. Next, a virtual developer forum is scheduled for this Wednesday, November the 17th, online from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. The moderator will facilitate a conversation with 4 prominent real estate developers to gain their perspective how to maximize potential on East Lancaster corridor. Registration and link may be found at advancingeastlancaster.com. Encourage my fellow board members in the audience to participate in that. BRT update. Trinity Metro provided an opportunity at the Advancing East Lancaster TOD Planning Study October public meeting for the City of Fort Worth to share Phase 2 of the study that would provide for a locally preferred alternative for the East Lancaster corridor. This study will provide additional input into the station location, zoning connections to other regional transportation projects, and location of the BRT in the roadway right-of-way. Meetings continue with the North Central Texas Council of Governments, City of Fort Worth, and TxDOT and Trinity Metro to discuss the scope desired for the study of the East Lancaster corridor. Phase 2 is expected to begin mid-2022. Trinity Lakes update. In accordance with Trinity Metro's procurement policy, request for proposal RFP 21-T020 for TRE Trinity Lake Station construction project was issued on May 4, 2021. Trinity Metro received 5 proposal responses. After review of the BAFO from the 2 highest ranked firms and based on their qualifications, the selection committee selected Austin Bridge and Road, LP. Trinity Metro is in discussion with Austin Bridge and Road on contract terms and conditions. It is anticipated that notice to proceed will be issued to Austin Bridge by mid-November 2021. TexRail extension. AECOM continues to advance on the environmental assessment and preliminary engineering. Memorandum of Understanding with Union Pacific Railroad has been signed by all parties, which is a big success. A non-binding term sheet was sent to Fort Worth Western Railroad for review and discussion. A non-binding term sheet was sent to Baylor Scott & White for review and discussion. The final environmental assessment was delivered for public review on October 29, 2021, with a virtual public meeting scheduled for November 16, 2021, tomorrow. The environmental determination expected by the end of December 2021. The P3 update, no new updates on this issue. The governor declined to place the matter on the agenda for any of the special sessions of the legislature. It is not expected to in the future. We will continue working with our legislative delegation to win support for this measure in the next regular session in 2023. And the TOD committee has no action items for this matter.
Mr. Chairman, just one quick question. Tito, is there a timeline on this proposed study between the City of Fort Worth and Trinity Metro that we're preparing to move the project forward? Because I get that question often.
Mr. Edmonds, which project are you talking about?
BRT.
BRT project. So we're getting through our TOD planning study now for East Lancaster, and then with the city's phase 2 study, we'll take another 12 months or more to get through that.
How many?
12.
12 months?
Yes, sir. We want to make sure that we come to an agreement on what the corridor should look like, together with the city, the council of governments, and TxDOT as well.
That concludes my report.
Let's go right into our Board of Directors meeting. I don't think it'll take too long today. Call the Board of Directors meeting to order. The first thing I'll do is ask for citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments? Anyone who would like to speak? No one online? Don't have any cards, so we'll move on to, let me call the roll first, so when we do the consent agenda and any other motions, we'll already have a record. Teresa Ayala? Here. Michael Crane? Here. Charles Edmonds? Jeff Davis is present. Nick Genua? Here. Charlotte Horton Williams? Here. Alan Hooks? Here. Chris Nettles? Here. Ben Robertson? Tito Rodriguez? And Paul Slechta. The next item of business would be to, I believe, have a report of the nominating committee. Alan Hooks, do you have a report of the nominating committee?
The nominating committee met on Tuesday about 2 weeks ago. Come up with, it was unanimous. The nominating committee would like to recommend the following people for the Trinity Board, Metro Board of Directors officers for fiscal year 2022. Chair, Jeff Davis. Vice Chair, Tito Rodriguez. Secretary, Teresa Ayala.
Alden, would you take over the meeting from here?
Yes. Are there any other nominations for chair, for vice chair, or for secretary? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call the roll for voting. For chair, Jeff Davis. Teresa Ayala? Yes or no?
Yes.
Michael Crane?
Yes.
Mr. Davis? Charles Edmonds?
Yes.
Nick Genua?
Yes.
Charlotte Horton Williams?
Yes.
Alan Hooks?
Yes.
Chris Nettles?
Yes.
Ben Robertson?
Yes.
Tito Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Paul Slechta?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is unanimous, and Jeff Davis is the new chair for fiscal 2022. Yeah. As to vice chair, the nomination is Tito Rodriguez. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none and dispensing with the roll call, I'll ask if the vote for Tito Rodriguez for vice chair may be unanimous. Any nays in that regard? Seeing none, unanimous election for Tito Rodriguez for vice chair. The nominee for secretary of the board is Teresa Ayala. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. And dispensing with the roll call vote, are there any objections to the election of Teresa Ayala for secretary of the board? Seeing none, the vote is unanimous, and Teresa Ayala is hereby declared secretary of the board for fiscal 22. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Going to the committee reports with the RTC. They always do a lot of business over 2 hours. 3/4 of it is about roads. And the part that's important, I think, is in North Texas, we're still experiencing 150,000 per year growth in North Texas. So they're coming. So we need to plan for it. it, and transit needs to be a really important part of the congestion mitigation, of air quality, and just moving people around for everybody in the North Texas region. So they're still coming. Next, I'll call on Charles for the commuter rail working session.
Regarding safety, both TexRail and TRE continue its stellar safety performance. They're continuing to follow the federal mask requirements for employees and passengers and maintain the social distancing on all trains. Operations, TexRail continues operating efficiently with 99.8% on-time performance for the month of September 2021 and 99.32% year-to-date on-time performance. And TRE likewise ended the month at 99.1% OTP and the year-to-date OTP 98.49%. TexRail, I'm happy to report, is at 104% ridership increase from September 2020 to 2021, and TRE a 58% increase in ridership between September 20 and 21. Action item under the consent agenda today, BA 2022-13, titled Continued Engineering Support on the TexRail Extension into the near South Side Station, and the Rail Committee recommends this item for approval. That concludes my report.
For the POM Committee, Chris?
I feel like I have quite a bit to report, so I'll just take my time to read this report here. September the 21st, fixed route ridership was 14.6% higher when compared to September 2020. Our overall system ridership continues to show improvements with a 29.2 increase when compared to September 2020. However, system-wide ridership for physical 2021 was 24.7% below the 2020. Another highlight of overall system is our Zip Zone service increasing from 983 rides in September 2020 to 5,971 rides in September of 2021. This is a 507.4 increase. The goal of our Zip Zone service is to connect riders to our transportation network, providing the customer a first mile, last mile connection needs to retain existing customers while attracting new customers to our transportation network. Here's a couple of bullet points. Provided 11,011 trips to Medical District on fixed route service. Also provided 6,066 medical and grocery trips on our paratransit service for an annual total of 74,024. Provided 3,239 dialysis trips services for our annual total of 29,118. Also provided 5,971 work trips over Zip Zones. Provided 5,351 job-seeking trips for an annual total of 59,546. Last bullet point, provided 120 vaccine rides for Fort Worth. The safety measure operation update is as follows. Our operation team continues to adhere to the guidelines provided by the FTA by continuing to enforce face mask usage on bus, rail, and facilities as required by federal mandate. The policy currently expires January 18, 2022, day after my birthday. That was in the report. No major issue was encountered during the ABC roll call regarding zero fares and increased passenger disturbances. Staff continues to review current vaccines mandate with our legal team that will continue to update the board on any actions that may be necessary as required by Texas federal directive. Readability measured by miles between roll calls were exceeded with both fixed route services and access contract services and access contact services for the month of September. Our full year results reflects that all All three operations, including the fixed route, access in-house, and access contacted service, met the full year goal. Fixed route services as well as access in-house contact service had a 0 AFR, accident frequency ratio. For major conclusions, in the month of September, for our full-year results, both fixed routes and access in-house service met the goal for the majority preventable collisions. One-time performance for our fixed route service achieved an 89.8% for September, with a full-year result of 89.81%. Access in-house service achieved an 88.8% OTP with a full-year result of 93.96 performance. Access contracted services achieved a 90.9 OTP with a full-year result of 93.5 OTP. Given all the challenges in the fiscal year of 2021, we believe our team has performed well, achieving many of the goals set for 21. We look forward to another great year providing with world-class services to our customers. The Planning Operation Marketing Committee has one action item to be considered under the consent agenda today. And I believe that concludes my report. Thank you.
I believe, Nick, you're up with the Finance Co-Chair.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Jeff. Let's start off with the income statement. Our sales tax, our revenue is up 29% versus our budget. That's driven primarily by sales tax, which is up roughly 47% over budget and roughly 12.5% over fiscal year 2020. As far as our operating expenses, they're under budget by 9.6%. And then as far as the balance sheet goes, our balance sheet is in really pretty good shape. We have no issues there. And the last item that I want to go over is we are targeting December for having completed the audit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tito, I believe you've given your report already? I have, thank you. All right. Are there any items that anybody would like withdrawn from the consent agenda?
Consent agenda, which we're all recommended for approval.
Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda. A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same, nay. The motion carries. Okay, the next item is the President's report.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to thank the members of the board, those who have worked with me in the past, and those who haven't but trusted your colleagues to invite me to come back. And the timing is wonderful because, as you see, all the numbers are getting better. So I don't want to take any credit for that, but maybe just the numbers heard I was coming back, and so they started getting better. But all humor aside, I really do appreciate the trust and the confidence that you place in me. And I can assure you that the team and I will not disappoint you. We'll continue to work hard and make progress and work with all of you. And I thank each of you for your service and your willingness to commit your time to this. It's such an important endeavor, what we do here. And I know you all take it seriously as we do on the staff. So I wanted to just talk briefly about next meeting and how we transition from COVID to in-person meetings. It has been, I don't have to tell anybody, it's been a tough year and a half or so. As many of you know, I was the interim CEO in Denver for the Regional Transportation District all last year. And, I got there, and 2 weeks after I got there, COVID hit and everything started shutting down. And so I was managing an agency of almost 4,000 people, and I had met a very, very small number. At the same time, I think I hold this record, When I got there, we were providing on a daily basis 375,000 passenger trips every weekday. And it only took me 2 weeks to make that 125,000. So I suspect that's a Guinness record. But in any event, so what I would like us to do, and I've discussed it with the chair and some of you, is get back to the process that we used pre-COVID. And the way that would work, and those of you who were here would know this, but we would set aside the third Monday to do the committee meeting. And, you know, if you're on a committee, you come by, it's generally a half hour, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, depending upon the extent of it. We have, at the time, the 3 committees. They'll have to look and see if we've added committees that we need to change. But this is kind of where we actually have face-to-face conversations. We arrange the tables differently. It's a square. You know, the staff sits with you, and we just talk, and we talk through the issues, and all ideas on the table. And that's really where it's such a great exchange of ideas, and everybody works together. And so then we come to the board meeting on the 4th Monday, and I think the average board meeting length was, I don't know, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, because we had the discussions, you know, we all had wrapped our heads around the issues. It really works very well. So for the board members who are new, I would ask you to give it a shot. And if you see a better way of doing it, absolutely. You know, we're all looking for better ways to do things, but it really worked well. We'll try it, and I know our chair will entertain any proposed changes. But it's really worked well, and we will set things up for January. Now, the other big change in January, of course, is that we'll have a new venue for our board meeting. We're scheduled to next month while we're not meeting. We'll be moving from Burnett Plaza into our new facility at Grove Street. I think you'll all be very, very pleased with the work that has been done there. You know, we bought that building about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, and a lot of planning has gone into it, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful job. You'll be particularly pleased, I think, with the boardroom setup and how we do our meetings. You know, instead of when you have an executive session making all the public leave, we'll have our own room, like city councils have been doing for a long time, that the board simply goes back to that room and has an executive session and then files back in. So that's something that we planned right from the beginning, which will make this a much smoother operation. But so we'll be communicating with you the meeting schedules. Of course, January and February have Monday holidays that adjust slightly. But, so the last thing I'll say is I would like to, between now and the next time we meet, I'd like to take some time to sit down with each of you on a one-on-one basis. I'd like to come out to your community where you work or where you live, and just sit down and let's just talk through so I can hear how I may help you achieve your goals, you know, in the months that I'll be here. You know, it's time to get back together. It's time to really be reinvigorated. I do want to say that in the short time I've been here, I have been impressed with the quality of the work that has been done. Bob Balser, even through COVID and the remote meetings, has constantly made his presence felt. And as I reviewed briefing papers and I'm being updated by the staff, you can all be very pleased that even though through COVID we've not been together, it's been over Zoom, et cetera, there's a lot of work that's been gone on, and Bob and the leadership team has done a superb job. So you can all be very proud of the work and the work that you've done to support the management team, because ultimately it's the management team working with the board together as one that is how we manage to achieve success here. So, Mr. Chairman, I think that'll be my remarks on my two-week anniversary of being here. So, thanks once again. I look forward to working with each of you.
I will say, when I was at APTA and coming back home, I know a dozen people or more talk to me about how fortunate we were to have Paul back. One thing Paul taught me early on was that it's all about relationships, about how you will succeed. And Paul has relationships throughout the industry with all the government agencies, and he can pick the phone up and may not get the answer he wants, but he can move the dial. He can move everything along to a successful conclusion, just like he did in TexRail. And you don't think that was a miracle? It was a miracle to get that done on time and under budget. So I'll continue with the chair's report. You all received a copy of the job description of the new president, CEO. Did y'all want to talk and chat about that and have specific comments, changes? This is an open subject with everybody. And by the way, we're all members of the search committee because we thought that was appropriate. Instead of appointing a few people, we think this is such an important decision that everyone here at the table needs to weigh in on all of the issues that relates to the new president and CEO. So y'all have comments about the job description that was sent out? And if you do, Charles, I know you had some. What were your concerns, Charles?
I can't think, I'm prepared to say something, but not on that subject. Go ahead.
Anybody have any comments? And we're going to publish that in the next week or so. If you have comments, go ahead and give them to us. We can emphasize certain characteristics. And I'm going to ask Nick actually sent out some questions to me to ponder and also to begin thinking about kinds of questions we ought to ultimately be asking the interview. So that's one thing that our search firm will help us with. So I thought the questions that Nick had were outstanding. So I'll ask Nick to send them all to you so that we can begin thinking about this process long term. Charles?
Mr. Chairman, as important as funding is to our efforts, and the fact that we're not an enterprise organization, we have to go out and get money to operate and for capital expenses. I think that whoever we select has got to be an expert at that. He has to know how to do that, have a proven track record of being able to work with funding partners effectively so that we can make things happen.
Couldn't agree more. And I think one of the things we also emphasized was the commitment to diversity. I don't know if you all saw that. We can change up that wording. We can put it in all caps. If you have any thoughts at all, please take a look at that. It's a pretty important document. I think Kelly did a great job in formulating that. But don't be bashful about giving me or Paul or Kelly your opinion so we can begin sending that out in the next week.
When are we bringing on the new grants person?
They're here. He's here. He's not here, but he's on board. Isn't that right, Chad? The new grants person? Yeah. UTA.
He came from UTA.
Okay.
And so he's on board. He's a PhD. He researches and he finds funding for us, and so he's going to be a great asset to the agency.
Early and fly off.
He's already writing documents.
Good.
Second thing I wanted to say, we're going to take a survey the next week or two about the retreat in terms of timing, also in terms of subject matter. We've been talking about it for a while, and now that we're back live, we really need to get that retreat going. There are a lot of important things to be talking about. So we'll be taking a survey in the next week or two, and please give me the benefit of your time, give Rena the benefit of your time to finally nail this down, because I couldn't think of anything more important that this board needs to do and spend really some quality time together and just talk, because there's just a bunch of stuff going on. And in that regard, I encourage all of you to talk to your appointors. Now, Chris, Michael, you don't need to talk to yourselves. But it won't hurt to talk.
Can they look in the mirror?
Yeah.
FaceTime yourself?
I encourage that. And if you have a meeting with someone from the county or from the city, when you come back, would you let me know so we can ask you what kinds of things you talked about, what that particular appointor was thinking, because we need to know what those folks are talking about and want direction. We need direction from them about where we're headed. And in that regard, I wanted to give you a brief report. I met with the mayor this morning, and it was like an out-of-body experience. It was so good. Just a really thoughtful meeting. all that was talked about was being good partners, sharing communication with Michael and Chris on board. That's a big step for being able to communicate with the city of Fort Worth, and the commitment there is to a dialogue. And we talk about meeting more regularly, quarterly, or semi-annually with the board. Very open to that, although she didn't want, no, I'm kidding. She's open to all kinds of discussion and wants to have a dialogue with everybody. And I really feel very strongly that this is an opportunity for us to move what we need to do to the next level. And piggybacking what Charles talked about, she's open and I think willing and committed to the exploratory committee just to begin this discussion about doing the kinds of things we need to do to get another .5% from the city of Fort Worth, or to get general revenue funds, or whatever is out there. If we can't get the state legislature to give us that help, the Austin model of 7 cents or 12 cents on their general revenue funds in perpetuity would work for any community. The idea is just to get more funding, and where we get it and how we get it is going to be important, but we need to just get together and figure it out in concert with the city. So she was very open about that, and I think this is the direction we really need to go. She was happy about Trinity Lakes, that TOD development, wants to see it built. She wanted to know about bus stops. She just wants more bus stops. And we talked about the trade-offs between what the city can do with sidewalks, bus stops, maybe getting the MWBE to work together to start making those bus stops locally, if that's possible. But at least she was brainstorming and thinking as a teammate, as a partner, and it was really refreshing to have that dialogue. And some things, let's see. I did mention the fact that we have this wonderful TNP terminal, and wouldn't it be great if we turned it into a TOD opportunity, much like they did at Harvest Hall and Grapevine, and with their Hotel Vim, because that TNP terminal is extraordinary. It really must be reinvented, because it's a fabulous place, and it's very ripe for TOD, especially as it relates to the realignment of Commerce Street with the new convention center space that we'll be having ultimately. It just fits hand in glove with the city's plan currently. There's a couple things. I've sent you each this short article, "The Bus is Still the Best." Okay, I won't beat you over the head with it, but I gave that to the mayor too, because in the last 6 months, the mayor said, "Well, we want to give the people whatever they want. If they want door-to-door service, let's just give it to them." Well, it's not that simple. And so that 5-page article from Jarrett Walker talks about the trade-offs between $40 and $60 a ride versus $10 a ride, and how many people you can carry, and how many people per hour you can move. And suddenly it began to move the needle, where she now begins to understand it's just not that simple. So that everybody do an Uber or a microtransit is what Jarrett Walker called, and she promised me she'd read it on her trip to Hawaii. The other thing I let her know, and I gave her the APTA recent 2020 economic development 36-page article on the benefits of economic development in transit. I'll send it to you all too, as I will resend the Bus is Still the Best. For every $1 billion invested, you get $5 billion in economic return and 50,000 jobs. So you just got to think in those terms. And for those that haven't talked about $1 billion before, we're the 12th largest city in the United States. Austin just passed a $7 billion initiative. San Antonio just passed it. Houston did a year ago a $4 billion initiative. Seattle, $54 billion. RTD spends that much money in a weekend in Denver. So, they have 375,000 rides a day. We have 30,000 typically a day. They're 10 times the city in terms of public transit that we have. And I will say, Fort Worth has ignored for a long time, and this is so refreshing to hear this mayor talk about it. We are a bedroom city, statistically, of Dallas. Nobody wanted to admit it. None of the mayor's friends wanted to admit it. And when the mayor told them, they didn't like it. They just don't understand how that could happen. So once you start realizing where you are, then you can go forward with it. And creating this economic development through transit, it's real. when Amazon talked about their new headquarters, one of their 4 criteria was a robust transit system. And that's what all the companies searching for headquarters are doing throughout the United States. They don't want to come to a place that's congested, bad air, can't move. We got cheap land out in Tarrant County. What this mayor realized this morning was that this is an opportunity to create some density with transit-oriented development, and at least to have a dialogue. I was so happy that she was just willing to talk about what that could do for our community. And she knew about Trinity Lakes and that experience. She knew about the Katy Lofts and that potential. So I just from a 50,000 foot view, I wanted you all to know that I'm having those talks with the mayor, and I would encourage you to have those same talks with your council members or whoever appointed you. You know, the idea here is to create economic development. The idea is to get people to their jobs, still to have social equity that we must have for our system. But look what something like the East Lancaster BRT will be able to do for that community. I talked to Christoph Spieler. Y'all know Christoph, incredible. I saw him at APTA, and I said, Christoph, I want to talk to you about this BRT project. You know, that's more important than TexRail. I completely agree with him. For our community, the BRT project is more important than our TexRail project. So we got to get it. We got to get it right. So all I'm suggesting to you is that there's a dialogue now. It's really exciting to have that dialogue with the city and try and be partners to work together to get a better transit system. I'm very excited to move this relationship further with the mayor and with the city council and the county commissioners. So, okay, that's my chair's report. We do have a very short, and Charlie, I know you need to go. We have a very short executive session. Yes.
Before you go to executive session, it's calls for other business. I had a couple of things I'd like to cover.
Go right ahead, John.
Thank you. I think one thing I came away from the APTA conference with is that equity in its broadest sense is the right thing to do, and it's especially the right thing to do for Trinity Metro. We do it. We do DE, we do other things. We have programs that Deetra's working on, but it really opened my eyes as to what advantages equity offers to Trinity Metro and Trinity Metro offers to people seeking equity. So I hope we can have a more robust discussion on that. Second thing was the APTA conference gave us a wealth of information and ideas, and the chairman has asked all of us that attended to report on at least one session they attended to the full board. And I'm going to do that. In addition to that, there was kind of a bonus session the last day of the conference. I think I was the only one still there. And it's going to be recorded, and I'm going to see if you could take a look at it. It is a very inspiring story of a man who started his discussion with us by saying, I just spent 10 years in prison. That would spark your interest. What he would say the next 45 minutes of his discussion, I don't know what would, but it's very interesting talk. And finally, I've kind of come around to a new position on the timing of our board retreat. I'm thinking that if we're a policy board, that maybe we should be talking about policy at an appropriate time before we set the budget. The budget submitted, put together by the staff and submitted so that they know what the board's thinking in terms of policy and they can incorporate that into the budget. So I leave that to you two to decide what the appropriate timing is. But I've been pressing to have it before we were reappointed and then after we were reappointed. And so now this is the third position for me. But I think it's a smarter idea because people I talked to at APTA are already doing it this way, and I think it's a good way to do it.
Thank you, Charles. Good thoughts. I'm serve at the pleasure of the board, and if they would prefer to postpone that, it's not a problem. It might be a good educational opportunity for the newer board members. I'm not sure how much policy we're going to set as much as how much we're going to learn. So I'll defer to the board and what they would like to see us do. Look, I'll have coffee with everybody tomorrow because there's just a lot going on and a lot to talk about. It's all good. Yeah, thank you, Charles, appreciate your comments. Yeah, sure.
TOD. One thing that happened last week, Wednesday, was the announcement of the Texas A&M for what they're calling Aggieland North. So we're talking about this whole area is going, but I would say, I don't know who from this body or, staff should be a part of those conversations, but this whole area is going to be revitalized and changed. So you're talking about building something here, building on, all that. I think that's a big piece of the conversation to have. Yeah.
I met with U3, the consultant, a couple days ago, Alex Feldman, really excited about what he's trying to do. But as he said, the devil is in the details. There's just a lot of land here, and we just got to get it right. And we were trying to figure out what that might mean, and I don't know. I think Paul met with Alex as well, and with Nina Petty, one of the people driving that decision. So thank you for that comment. I think because that connects to the south side, and boy, if they could have, and they have 10,000 cars in the park there. Well, what if they could only or needed 5,000? What that would mean for their ability to have more building facilities. So it's all really exciting possibilities. I'm really glad you brought that up. That's a big deal.
I think it's exciting, especially if there's no dormitories. Because then those students have got to find a way to get to school and not every one of them is going to have a vehicle.
I think that's where we're headed. Thank you, Michael. That was great. So let's adjourn this meeting and move into an executive session briefly. I promise it won't take long.
The back room.
It's, okay. It's 4:53 and I'm reconvening the meeting. Do I hear a motion, to approve BA 2022-19? I have a motion and 13 seconds. Thank you very much. Is there, all those in favor of that? You get punchy. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you all very much. All right.